Hey, welcome to episode 8 of Your Brain on God. This is Daryl.
And this is Aaron.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about our experience of time and the importance of being present in the moment.
Yeah.
Fully experiencing life right here, right now, in every moment that passes. So we hope you enjoy the listen. Here we go.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Yes!
We're in.
We're in. Again, it's
We've made
it. We've made it, Daryl, to episode 8 of YBOG. Your brain on
God.
I allowed you to do that one, man.
You weren't with me on it, though.
Not because I wasn't unified with you, just because I felt like I wanted to hear what you were doing. You know how when you do something with somebody, you can't really hear what they're doing because you're so focused on yourself?
That's true. Here, wait. Do it again. I'll do it better.
Okay. Welcome to Your Brain on
God.
Dude, see, that was amazing. That was
Now
really good.
Should I do it for you?
Yeah. You should do
Welcome
it for you. We want to make
welcome
this
to
mutual.
episode 8 of Your Brain on
God. Wait, I felt weird about that one.
It felt weird for me the first time, so I understand. Let's try it again. I'll give you.
Okay, yeah. All right, go for it.
Episode 8 of Your Brain on
God. Gee, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it
that
felt
wasn't
good.
bad. Yeah,
No, that was good.
You get more comfortable on the mic. We feel so comfortable with you, all you boggies out there. You know, it's episode 8, and when you first start a podcast, it gets kind of weird. You know, you feel like you're putting on like a personification of yourself, even though you're not trying to. And we're being our real selves. You know,
It's like more self-awareness, you know?
yeah,
Becoming more self-aware.
you're very self-aware.
It's like,
we're talking to people, and then if you're watching the video, you can see us. And so it feels like we're having a conversation, but also there's people listening, There's people listening in. Yeah. So it's just like, it feels different. You're in like a different space,
Totally.
Yeah.
It is kind of strange. I feel more comfortable. I do feel more comfortable.
Since we started?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how, you just get used to stuff like that, Ever since COVID, since we've been preaching online when there's no one in the services,
Right,
when we're doing like online services and stuff. When we first started doing that stuff, it was so weird. Like talking to a camera and making a whole message or doing worship when there's no one in the room, no one listening, no one, But then after a while, we started back up again, and then we went back online these last couple weeks. And I get in there, I'm like, this is just normal, I feel like comfortable in front of a camera. I feel chill,
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the different experience feels different.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Words from
that was
Daryl
the
Daniels.
word. That was the word I was looking for.
Honestly, dude, I've been thinking in like different experiences just feel different. Well, welcome to episode 8, everybody. We've got a special episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about time and presence, and how our experience of time. I guess there's different kinds of time. There's clock time, which is just the time that you see on a clock that naturally passes as you live life. And then I guess there could be natural time too, where it's like, sun rises and sets, but that's a little fluctuating, not as more fluctuating than clock time. And then there's psychological time, which is how we experience the time in our lives, how we experience life and things going fast and things going slow, because, we could be watching the same movie or we could be doing the same thing and you could be like, oh my gosh, that went by so slow, and I could have a completely different experience. And so we want to talk today about how to actually embrace being present in the midst of kind of like that fluctuation in our own psychological time when we're experiencing things slowly or we're experiencing them quickly, and how we can kind of best live and out of that place, I suppose.
Yeah. I was actually just talking to somebody earlier today who was working, and they were in their last hour of work.
Yeah.
And I asked them, during your last hour of work, do you get like a boost of energy because it's like the last hour?
Yeah.
Or does it feel longer? And he was like, oh, it usually always feels slower. It feels like it's longer than the rest of the time I was here, which is different for me. Usually in my last hour of work, I feel like I get a boost of energy.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is it. I need to finish everything to get done. This is my last, do this last thing, and then I'll be doing something else afterwards. But I think it's the anticipation is making it go faster.
Right.
But I don't know. That's kind of, sometimes it actually makes the opposite effect. Or we could be anticipating something and it feels like what we're doing now is going slower, or it's taking a long time.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. When I'm doing work, it's not usually like that.
Yeah. It depends on what kind of work I'm doing. You know, I think, work days fluctuate all the time because sometimes I will literally wake up thinking to myself, and I'm sure this is an experience of a lot of people, like, what time do I get off today? You know, where it's like, if I start at this time, I'll get off on this time, you know, which is unfortunate. And I want to try and, you know, shift that because I feel like we talked about this in one of our other podcasts, like working to rest. Right. Instead of working out of a place of rest. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I can get to that space where it's like I'm measuring how much time I have to live through before I can finally, you know, chill out. Right. You know, or do the things that I want to do. And I think that is a part of working in like an environment. I think I know who you're talking about, working in a food, you know, a food place where it's that last hour of work. Because I know when I was working at Starbucks, it was like that all the time. It was like, get me out of here.
This is already been way too long.
Already been way. And then you're just hoping. And I find it's really sad when we start describing our emotional states in work based on how much, you know, time we have left, you know, because I'll ask people how they're doing. And before they even say actually how they're doing, they'll just be like, I got an hour off. Or I got an hour left.
Or it just started.
Exactly. So if you're saying that you just started, it means like, well, this is going to suck, you know? Or if it's like, I got an hour left, it's like, I'm almost out of here. Like I'm almost out of prison, you know?
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, I think, because we really aren't present with the work that we're doing. And that's not just in work, but that's in play too, or you know, or standing in line or for food, or you know, there's so many different spaces in our lives where we start getting into our heads and we start weighing how long something is taking, or you know, what we're doing in the moment. Is it worthwhile to actually take this time? Because time is precious to us. You know, and you'll hear people say that all the time. All the time, you'll hear people say that all the time. Now I feel weird. That, you know, time is more precious of a commodity than money is. You know, and
or time is money.
Time
That's is even a phrase, you know?
Yeah, time is money, because it's important to us that we're not wasting our time on things, or that we're spending our time well. And so when we feel like, especially when we're doing work, or we're doing something that we don't want to do, we don't feel like we're spending our time well, and so we get out, you know, we get into our heads and start getting out of the actual present moment of what's going on. But it does this unfortunate thing where you start living out of the present, and so no matter what you're experiencing, it just becomes worse anyway, you know?
Right. Yeah. And it's like we're wasting time, like as if we were wasting money. It's like, but we can't do anything about it. It's like, this feels like a waste of my resources, of the time that I'm actually spending, when I could be spending time doing something else.
Right.
And we do treat time like a resource, and I guess it is a resource, right?
Totally it is.
Yeah. It is a resource. And we have experiences of not having enough time. Mm-hmm. Usually it's in that. Usually I think it's leaning more towards that direction, or we either don't have enough time, or we don't have enough time to do this thing we want to do, or the time that we do have, we feel like we can't accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. I think I just said the same thing in 3 different ways.
I love synonyms. I'm 100% down for synonyms.
Usually I think it's that, I'm leaning towards that direction, where it's like a time deficit, rather than I have too much time. Mm-hmm. And even if we have too much time, we still treat it as a negative thing. Like, there's too much time on my hands, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Which is it's so weird. When we don't have enough time, you know, we feel like we don't have enough time. We're trying to get more time, and then when we have too much time, we're trying to spend it on doing something else just for the time to pass by.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, when we don't have it, we feel like we need more. When we have too much, all we want to do is waste it.
Right. Oh gosh, it's so bad. My counselor Max, he always says, after we finish a session, we have a session for an hour, and then he, you know, when we were doing it every week, now we just meet twice a month, but when we were doing it every week, he would always say, I'll see you in 167 hours. Nice. You know, because the guy works over 100 hours a week, which is just crazy.
Wow.
But he still finds time. He's like learning another language right now. And he's like, I was spending time with my grandkids and like with my family. And he always talks about how we have 168 hours in a week, you know? And he's like, and most of that is wasted. Jeez. Yeah. A lot of that is time that's not well spent, you know?
Yeah.
And so he talks about how if we utilize our time right, and we actually remain in that present moment, right? And he's all about staying in the present, making sure that we don't get caught up in the psychological time, right, or of our experience of time, but we're only in one space of time, and that's in the present. We're not focused on the past. We're not focused on the future, and that doesn't mean that we don't plan for things, or that doesn't mean we don't go back to go forward, right? Or we don't, view things and learn from things in our past. But our primary source of drawing life, I guess, I'm trying to make this sound more spiritual than maybe it is, it is the present moment. And that's where we're going to fully experience life. And that's how we can best utilize our time that if you think about it that way, that's actually a whole lot of time. 168 hours. If say I sleep 40 and I work 40, that's 80 hours. So that means I still have another 87 hours to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
87 hours? That's crazy.
That's a lot of things you can do in 87 hours in a week.
You could do so much time just in 127 hours. You could cut off your arm like in that movie. Just think about it,
Daryl. You have 127 extra hours. Here's an idea.
Get caught in a rock, be named James Franco, and cut off your arm with a small pocket knife.
Yeah, no, but that's, I think that's a great point. I haven't actually seen this movie yet, but The Little Prince. I was watching a trailer for it last night.
The Little Prince, what's that about?
I don't know exactly. I know it was a book. It was a book that turned into a movie.
It's not called The Little Princess? Isn't that a movie too?
That is a movie with Shirley Temple. Not the same thing.
Her name is Shirley Temple? That's a delicious drink.
It's named after her, I'm pretty certain. Whoa. She was like a child. You don't know who Shirley Temple is?
I have no idea.
Child actress?
No. So was she in the 60s?
Really?
50s?
I don't know what era, but it was a long time ago. It was like barely color. And like the transition of black and white to color.
Barely color. Color came out like the 30s or 40s. Wizard of Oz.
Well, I don't know.
That's a long time ago.
There was movies with her in black and white. But
Shirley Temple, look her up, everybody.
I used to have a few at my house growing up. We had a few Shirley Temple movies. Anyways,
that's awesome. I would love to drink a Shirley Temple while I watch Shirley Temple.
Go for it. There's a lot of options. But The Little Prince. So in the trailer for this movie, or this little clip that was being shown, it was, I don't even know who this person was, an adult with a child. And the adult was talking to the child about their life plan. And she was like, this is your whole entire life plan. So you don't have to leave anything to chance. Everything's planned out. All of your birthday gifts are already preset. You already know what you're going to have for this year, for this year, for this year, for this year. We know what school you're going to go to. We know how you're going to spend your time. And it's broken down to the hours and to the minutes.
Jeez.
And so she says the amount of years, and she says, like, I know that doesn't seem like a lot of time, but if you think about the hours, it's thousands and thousands of hours, and which is of minutes.
Right.
And seconds. It's like, then when you look at the numbers, it seems like way more time than maybe we would have thought. Mm-hmm. And that reminded me of whenever I was in college, I had to do an assignment where I logged all my hours for like a week or two.
Right.
Every hour I had to say what I was doing, what was happening. If I was sleeping, if I was working, if I was eating, if I was playing video games, if I was just relaxing, whatever it was, I logged it into this log.
Yeah, that's cool.
I had to keep logging this journal. And when I was done with it, it helped me realize how much time I actually have compared to the time that I feel I have.
What'd you spend most time doing?
I don't remember. Work. Not as much school as I should have been doing.
Heck yeah.
I remember thinking, I wish I had more time to spend on these assignments so I could put more effort in. And then realizing, I do have more time. I'm just not putting the effort in.
Right.
But realizing all the time that I had was using it to do something that was not very productive, or maybe if I was put my sleep schedule, if I actually scheduled sleeping better, so I had better rest, that I had more time during the day. Mm-hmm. If I had free time, all the slots that I had free, all the hours and minutes, when they added up, I could be doing something, developing a new skill. I could be learning something. I could be studying on my own, something I want to do, or just spending more time to intentionally rest and relax.
Right.
But I wasn't aware of that until I started looking at this time log that I'd kept, and all this time that I was wasting and not really doing anything with because I didn't realize I had it.
Right. Yeah.
I was just living through those hours without being intentional with those hours.
Right.
And so much missed opportunity was happening.
Right.
And so I started being more intentional with like using a calendar to plan when I was going to study and do my homework, when I was going to be reading the Bible, and I'd put it into my calendar so I had it blocked out and I knew how I was going to be spending my time. It was like a budget.
Yeah.
Like a time budget. It was a time budget.
That's sick.
So I didn't have all this, with a budget, you put a budget so you can take control of your money and use it the way that you want to use it. So you can put it towards the things that are important to you. So you can make sure you pay for the things that matter first, and you can be saving up so you can have saved money to do things for fun as well. And make sure you do have free time or free money to do fun things.
Right.
But the same thing with time. If we budget our time, we could be more intentional with how we're spending our time. Right. The things that we're spending on, things that we should prioritize first. Okay, so I need to spend my time doing these things before I do these things.
Right.
And how much time I have left over would determine what else I can do. Right. So now I have this much time for free time, or this much time to be with my family, or to have some alone time.
Right.
Whatever that need is, I think when we be intentional with our time and actually put it into calendar, like a daily calendar, we can see how we're spending our time and be more intentional with those decisions so that they reflect the values that we have.
Totally.
So they reflect the things that are actually important to us.
Right. I was just going to say that means you have to figure out what actually matters.
Yeah.
You know, because I think we've talked about this before on the podcast. Most of the days that we do have off, we just end up wasting them doing things that we didn't get to when we were working. So we end up doing just like the last minute chores around the house, or we don't really take a Sabbath to do something that's life-giving, for us. And we don't really take the time to sit with what actually matters. So we end up spending our time doing a whole bunch of things that don't really matter,
Yeah.
And this last season, I've been pretty proud of myself, as far as utilizing my time. I don't know, something shifted in me where I think it was actually starting to go to counseling, where I realized, oh my gosh, I have so much time to do things. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so busy I can't even function, because I also feel like most of the time that we do have off, we're just using to recover for the time that we we're going back into work. So that can feel like wasted time, because we're just like using that time to recover from the anxiety of the time that we spent working, which is unfortunate too. But I realized, like, oh man, it became exciting at how much time I had. It was no longer living in this lack mindset of I just don't have enough. It was like, whoa. And so after work, I started going to coffee shops and writing, and I started on Thursday nights. Every Thursday night, I started going to my buddy's Josh's house to record, for an EP. And then we started up this podcast, and there's so much opportunity to do things that are meaningful, that matter, in life, and that's incredible if we use our time well. The thing is, I think in order to use our time well, we need to be good stewards in being present in our time well.
In the time that we do
have. In the time that we do have.
Being aware of how we're actually spending that time and breaking out of that time scarcity.
Right.
Like there's never enough time to do the things I want to do.
Right.
Or to do what I want to do, or to go work out, or to be healthy, or to do this thing, or to start this thing. If we were to sit down and really be intentional, make a time budget, we probably could move things around, even if we literally are, if our days really are taking up too much, like, of doing a bunch of stuff that really doesn't matter to us.
Right.
Well, if we become aware of that, that's now we have the decision. Do we keep doing the things that don't matter to us, or do we carve out time to do what's important?
And can we just say it? Social media. And I feel like we mentioned this on half of the podcast, social media is a pit that is so difficult to get out of, when you wake up and I can notice I open up my phone in the morning, and then I just start swiping without even trying to.
You're not even thinking about it.
I'm not even thinking about it. I just click on Instagram and I'm like, no! And I have to I shoot it up to the top, you exit out of apps. I'm like, no. I put my phone down. I'm like, I'm not going to start my day that way, Because I have to put those, I have to put those time constraints on social media, on Instagram. It'll tell you
you've been on for 30 minutes.
Yeah, you've been on for 30 minutes, get off. But then it gives you options to say, don't even worry about it. Just let me go for the rest of the day. And I click that every single time. So it comes out, and I used to feel, okay, it's like, just give me 5 more minutes. And then it would come back up, and I was like, just give me 5 more minutes. Like I'm pressing snooze button on it, telling me to get off. And then I'm just like, you know what? Just for the rest of the day, just stop telling me that I'm on this too much. I don't want to know about how much time I'm spending. But we can spend so much needless time. And then I find that makes me less creative. It makes me less driven. I look at what other people are doing, but I don't actually create myself, Because I see a bunch of creators, I see a bunch of athletes, or I see a bunch of people in the gym on social media, but I'm not actually doing it myself. I'm just watching all these people, and I find myself just digging myself deeper and deeper in time pits, where it's like, geez, even those 30 minutes I could have used to just like talk to the Lord or be present, experience life, and it takes being present to use your time well, because I know that when I'm anxious, I don't use my time well. I'm just like, I'm trying to find distractions. I'm trying to like figure out what to do. I don't, so it's like, I gotta take a deep breath, so I can use my time well.
Yeah. A long time ago, I started thinking like, I thought of what if somebody couldn't see what was on screens? So whether it's a TV screen or a phone screen, what if there's somebody who couldn't see?
Like a blind person? I'm confused.
No, they could see everything else, just anything that appeared on the screen. They just couldn't see it. So they walk into a room and see people sitting on a couch staring at a box for hours.
Whoa. When did you have this thought?
I don't know.
This is awesome.
A couple of years ago. Or like people pulling out this small device out of their pocket and just staring at it, and like touching it and staring at it, staring at it for 30 minutes. It's so easy for 30 minutes or an hour to go by. You're just sitting on your phone.
It looks crazy.
But you look crazy to that person. Because you're just sitting there staring at something, not doing anything.
Daryl, that's one of the coolest thoughts ever.
That's what I don't know. I never actually watched any of the Black Mirror episode things, but I remember when they came out, that's what I thought of. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's what this is about. They would like the Black Mirror, where whenever it's off, all you see is a black mirror. It's like a black reflection. We're like looking at ourselves, and it's just a black screen, But when we turn it on, we see all kinds of stuff. But when it's off, it looks like a black mirror. You know what I mean?
That's actually a profound
criticism
of...
I don't know if that's at all what they were doing, but that's what I thought of whenever I saw it come out.
Dang. That like when you look on your phone and you actually turn it off, you see yourself. It's just like this black...
It's like a black mirror. Yeah. It's just a reflection, but it's black because the screen's dark.
Jeez. And like in a TV where you can see your reflection, you're just watching a box.
Yeah.
That's actually sad. Did that make you sad? But that is like...
it's like, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with enjoying a movie or a show or going to your phone and everything, but I think that when we could spend more time doing that than we do investing in intentional relationships with somebody, then there's an issue. I think that an issue becomes clear.
Yeah,
and it starts surfacing in other ways as well.
Yeah, using that time. Using that time well is like, it changes everything, and then you actually start accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and then building those patterns and actually using that time and being present, in the present moment. Like it builds this habit of just like, oh, I can do so much, and then you're go, and there can be a healthy aspect to go. Does that make sense? Where it's like, it's actually, you're doing life-giving things, because I think burnout is something that should be like talked about in like the, being productive in time or whatever. I think that's also because we're not actually present in the things that we're doing. Right? We're not actually in the present moment. We're just kind of like, turning our wheels as fast as we can to get things done that might not really matter, in the grand scheme of things. And then we end up getting, burnt out, and then we're so tired, and then we need like recovery time for all those things. And that's good. We all need rest. God created rest, and he created those recovery times. Those are good things, know?
Yeah.
But I think coming actually into the idea that it's like, I'm not living for future, I'm not living out of past. I'm living right here. I'm working right here. I'm playing right here. I am right here. And I can't change this present moment by getting into a headspace of future or by staying in a headspace of past. Yeah. It's just like, you can't change it. It's like this this weird thing that our brain does. Again, my counselor says to find salvation in the future. Where we're in a present moment, and you're standing in line at Chipotle, and I just saw this in Chipotle. You're standing in line in Chipotle, and it's a really long line in Chipotle, and you're standing right there, but your mind is just waiting and expecting that you're going to get that food, right. And then you can get out of there, and you can, you go home, and you can finally rest, and you can sit on the couch, all of that stuff. Right. And so you're in that moment, your body is, but your mind is somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous place.
Yeah. And then when we put our mind, our energy goes to that place. Mm-hmm. Our mental energy goes there, and it makes us want to be there as well. And when we can't be there, it actually causes some kind of like an internal pain of a desire not fulfilled. Right. When we're not putting our attention on the present, when we're wanting to be in the past or wanting to be in the future, and we're missing out what's actually around us. Like being in a line at Chipotle, you could be present in that moment because you're not going to get the burrito any sooner. Right. By thinking about the burrito you're going to get. Right. You're going to have to wait for the line. So you might as well just be present in the moment and just be there rather than trying to be somewhere else. Right. I wonder how many things we would notice that would be different. Or if we had ever strike up a conversation, which is totally socially, it's like against the social norm to start talking to somebody in line. In
line, yeah.
But what I've noticed is when that's happened, it's almost like a relieving thing. It kind of feels like, wow, this is like society. This is humanity.
It's like there's people here.
There's people around me. Yeah, like this is a human being who has a life.
Right.
And they
have a voice, they have ideas, they have beliefs. Like we actually have common interests in some things. We're not just standing in line at a Chipotle.
Right. Yeah. It's so fascinating. But when we break out of the trying to be somewhere else and just be present, I think we notice a lot more of the things that are around us.
Right.
And we can't, like you said, we can't live in the future. Meaning, if we're thinking about the future, we're still going to be living in it today, regardless of how much we're thinking about the future. Same thing without the past. Right. Think about the past and want to be in the past, but we can't bring the past in today. We can only live in right now. Every moment that passes, that's the only thing we can experience. Right. And the more we spend time thinking about being somewhere else or thinking about what has been, we're missing the opportunity to experience what is. Right. Exactly. And that's like right now is the time that we experience God. Right. We don't experience God by thinking about experiencing him in the future. Yeah. Right. We experience him now in the present. And we could plan for things and want to have things happen in the future. Right. But the only time we are fully present with him is when we're fully present with ourselves. Right now. Mm-hmm. It's like we can't find that anywhere else. Right. But in this moment, it's like he is in the present
right now.
Right now.
And right now. And right now.
Yeah, and we can only experience the moments as they pass. And every time we're not being present, we're missing the moments around us. Right. And I mentioned this earlier. I think, did Alan tell you this as well? This story about him having a friend who was really very present with a lot of things and experiencing things around him.
He loved to enjoy things. He always talked to me about my roommate's father.
Yeah, I used to work for him.
Yeah.
So he told me this story whenever I was working.
His name's Alan. He used to tell me about this guy who loved getting haircuts, like because when they would wash his, when they would like scratch his head or whatever. And he said he had the weirdest face ever when they would scratch his head. Like he'd just be like,
he's just enjoying it.
Yeah, just enjoying it, like a huge smile on his face, like shaking his head, just like it looked so weird.
Yeah, but he was being fully present and experiencing what was going on. He was just thinking about the enjoyment that was happening in that moment, and he's fully allowing that joy to take over. And this other time when he saw him in a car on the street and at a stoplight, and he was just drawing his finger against the window, you know, like looking at his finger in the glass and just feeling the glass. Right. And Alan was like, "What is he doing? That's so weird." But then he was like, "I'm gonna do it to see what that's like, if it feels anything special." Or so he started doing it. He was like, "Huh, interesting." But he never even thought to do that. He never thought to have that experience or this thing is around him and he can have this experience, but he never even thought to have the experience. Yeah. And he talked to me about, this before I was married and before I was even engaged, about being fully present with the woman that I love and being fully present with Brittany. And when I'm with her, to fully experience her. To what she looks like, what she feels like, what she smells like, what she sounds like, and to actually take in who she is, and fully experience who she is. in every moment, every time when I'm holding her hand or touching her hand or feeling her skin, just knowing what she's like and allowing myself to be present in that and actually think about it.
Right.
To actually think about what it feels like to hold her hand, what it feels like to kiss her,
right.
what it feels like to hold her and to be present with her. And that advice it's something that I had, wanted to do anyways. It's something I try to do is be present and with people,
right.
but him saying that emphasized it more. So I put more intention into that and I do it more often because of that. And those times when I remember to do that are so sweet and so special.
Right.
We're not doing anything but just being together.
Right.
And me thinking about how much I love her, how grateful I am for her, hearing her heartbeat,
right.
and just soaking in the preciousness
right.
of who she is.
That sure beats, waiting to go do something with her,
right.
Waiting to get out of the house, or why are you taking so long, or
Yeah.
That sure beats that when you can actually create that level of experience and intimacy, in a relationship. That's something huge. And I would say, I guess mindfulness coaches, or I guess meditation coaches or presence coaches or whatever, they would say it's coming back into your body.
Yeah.
So the experience, like what you're talking about, of Alan's friend who's touching, touching the window. It's a great way to get out of your head.
Being present
is to be present with your senses.
Yeah.
So focus on what you're hearing, and then focus on what you're saying. If you're talking to somebody or what they're saying, focusing on their words, or focus on what you're seeing and the fact that you even have eyes to see. Sometimes I get blown away. I had this like week where I was so excited that I could see. I was like, oh my gosh, I can see things. And I was so jacked up on the fact that I could see. And I would take, every night I would go out and I would walk, and I would just become so present with the fact that my eyes were working and that I was perceiving light and like dark and color.
That's amazing.
And I remember I probably looked like a crazy person because I got to the stoplight, and I don't know if you've ever noticed how big stoplights are. Have you ever looked at a stoplight?
I remember you called me when you were doing that.
Did I really?
Yeah. I didn't know how long ago this was, but now I know exactly how long ago it was.
Yeah. I called you because I was like, I think I said, Daryl, stoplights are huge.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it sounds like a high thought or something. I wasn't on drugs or anything like that. I was just walking with Jesus, just excited about the fact that I could perceive,
Yeah.
And I was present with that idea. And I looked up at this stoplight, and those things are huge. They're like, a foot and a half thick, probably 3.5, 4 feet tall. I was like, geez, man, these things are giant. When you see them from a distance, they don't look that big,
right,
which is a word as it is itself. You see it as it really is when you get close. Anyway, that's my pastor mindset. But you become present with those things, and it starts filling you with joy. You get out of the whole, what's going on here and what's going on here, because you're actually experiencing life as it is. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes back to time in a sense, right? When you're living outside of the presence and you're waiting in the Chipotle line and you're thinking about how much time the line is taking and how long they're taking to prepare the meal, and you're so psychological time focused, you're not actually seeing things as they actually are. Like you're trying to experience life through how you think it should be. And so you're missing on life as it actually is. But there's actually more joy in the moment as it actually is than what you think it should be. Right. And it is that lack mindset that you're coming back to. You're still living from that lack of time, right? Because that lack mindset of where I'm not. And so instead of actually living from a place of this is actually where I'm at, I'm going to live from what I have, you're waiting for the future to save you. Right. Mm-hmm. Or you're looking for the past to change in order for you to be okay, or whatever, like you're not actually living in that moment. But I love those moments where when I get really anxious now, sometimes what I do is I just start touching my fingers. I start touching my fingers, or I'll start rubbing my leg and just start focusing on the fact that I can feel my leg, what it feels like, what the response is on my fingers. And what happens is I start to actually sensing it gets me out of this mindset, this anxiety, because I'm not no longer in the head. I bring it into the body, which is the opposite of what anxiety makes you think you have to do. Because for me, anxiety makes me want to get out of my body. I'm like, get me out of here, right? But really what I'm doing is living in the matrix and trying to get out of my head, and I need to get back into the current reality, right? So the idea with anxiety often, most of the time, is, and being time conscious, is we want to get out of the moment, right? To find salvation in a different moment. But really, the salvation comes when you stay in that moment, right? Where you do that. And I'll say one more thing, but before I let you talk, Daryl, I'm sorry, I'm talking about,
no,
but sorry, I get a lot of revelation and I learn a lot from my counselor Max, because he talked about I don't know if I talked about this before, staying in the circle.
I don't know.
No?
Tell me.
So basically he was talking about, and I don't know if it's a story or if this is actually like a real tribe that he was talking about. Basically, he's talking about this Native American tribe that when a boy turned 12, they would take the boy out into the wilderness, and they would set a circle of stones in the wilderness, and they would have him sit there, and they would say, sit there until we come back. And it was like this test of him becoming a man, right? So they would leave, and during the day, it was really easy for the boy to just sit in the circle. But at night, you start hearing sounds and you start, getting afraid, right? And what happens is you start wanting to get out of the circle, right? You start wanting to run back to the camp. But if you run back to the camp, it's going to be a really bad thing for you, right? Because you're going to be received by all these people who are like, that's your test of manhood, to stay in the circle, right? Yeah. But the idea is to stay in the circle, and then the morning comes, and if you just sit there and wait, they'll come get you. Right? Yeah. They'll come get you the next day and you'll be fine, but it's the fear, it's the noise, it's the anxiety, it's the time, this feeling, this pull of this experience of time that we have to make things go quicker, or to slow things down, or try and control time, which you can't at all, instead of staying in the circle. Right? Staying in that space, even though it's getting crazy, and you're starting to feel, every time you start to feel like this line needs to take, it needs to go shorter, to come back to the moment and be like, okay, what am I experiencing right now? Why do I need to get out Chipotle so quick? What's going on? Why can't I just be in this moment right now? And then coming back to a place, maybe just rub your hands together, rub your hands together, or just put your hand on your heart and just kind of feel the fact, or what my counselor says too is just rub your mind and say it's okay. Like you don't need to be anywhere, but now just be right here. So all of those things are helpful to come back in,
yourself back in,
bring back into the present moment, because all of those realities you're creating, they don't exist yet.
Right.
All that exists right now is now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now, there is no future and there is no past. And we talked about having experiences where that was like the case, right?
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
Like we talked about like the moments that we had where we were like, oh my gosh, the future doesn't exist.
Oh
the
past
totally
doesn't
exist.
And like, I can't live, like there is no future, there is no past, there's only right now.
Yeah.
Which sounds like something I don't know, a sage would say in a movie, in like a kung fu movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brittany does that. I think she, about rubbing her fingers together, about being present. Mm-hmm. Because she can also get in her head and become anxious about things and be worrying about things. Mm-hmm. But she's starting to develop some practices to help ground herself in reality, in those moments of, okay, so what's happening right now? Let's get back in the present. Let's get back into my body, because I'm not over there. This thing isn't happening yet. Mm-hmm. And if I spend my time and energy thinking about this thing, I'm going to be missing out on what's right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it's a little easier for me to do that. I haven't had that intensive experiences with anxiety in that manner. Right. And part of that is just, I don't know, I'm not sure why. My brain's just hasn't developed that way. I have other ways that my brain has struggled.
Your brain's just better.
No, my brain has developed other ways to cause self-infliction.
Right.
But whenever I think about things in the future that might go wrong or whatever, I think like, well, it hasn't gone wrong yet, so I'm not going to worry about it. Right. It's like, I'll worry about it once it happens. And sometimes that is a little bit too much. That sometimes can be damaging, because I'm taking too long to start worrying about something that maybe I should start thinking about and planning for. But it's like the opposite experience, where I'm thinking that I don't need to focus on those things because it's not here yet. And so I don't think the solution necessarily is to act like there is no future. I have a friend from college, And something I remember him saying one night, like all of my housemates were all like staying up late playing video games, and he's like, okay, I got to stop. I can't live like there's no tomorrow. It sounded like something he probably heard from his dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't live like tomorrow doesn't exist.
He's playing video games, hearing his dad yell at him for playing video games, get out and get a job or something.
Yeah, so he stopped playing and he went home.
Right.
And there's some reality to that. That there is tomorrow, and there are things that have happened in the past.
Right.
But there is, I think the pivotal difference is where we decide to prioritize our time and our energy.
Right.
Are we prioritizing spending time and energy in the present? Whenever I was overseas doing college, I saw a lot of people get really homesick, and I had one experience that I remember feeling really homesick to the point where I felt pain in my stomach. It was after like my first 6 months. I didn't know anybody over there when I was there. I just met new people. I was alone in that sense. And I had a moment of feeling very homesick, of missing my family, just thinking about my family and missing my family and my friends I had. And after that moment, I didn't really struggle with it, but I took a moment to grieve it. But what I realized is the more I spent my time and energy being present in the country that I was in, with the people that I'm around,
right.
with the church I was going to, with the job that I had, the less I thought about wanting to go home.
Right.
And whenever I decided to make where I was my home, the idea of homesickness wasn't even a thing for me anymore. It was like, well, this is my home now, and there are people that I love and I try to stay connected to, but there are relationships here that I'm developing. There are things I'm pouring into here, and the more I was able to bring myself to be present with the situation I was in,
right,
the less I wanted it to change.
Right.
The less I was needing it to change, and I was able to enjoy it more.
Right.
I was able to make better decisions because I was living in the moment then.
Totally.
And I saw a lot of people come and always thinking about home or going back overseas. And oftentimes those students would drop out halfway through the semester or after one semester or go home after 1 year because they missed home.
Right.
And that whole time they were thinking about being somewhere that they were not.
Right.
And those same students usually didn't develop relationships where they were. They didn't pour into very much. They didn't invest into where they were.
Right.
They didn't get out as much as they could have.
Right.
If they were just present with where they were actually at. And the same thing, I think, translates in regards to our time. We can have relationships somewhere else in the past or maybe in the future, but if we pour our time into right now, we can develop relationships that that are stronger than any other ones that we had in the past.
Right.
Or ever could in the future. Well, maybe not that, because I think if we're always present, we're always going to be making good relationships.
Yeah.
But being able to be present is the superpower that allows us to develop healthy relationships.
Right. Yeah.
And not getting caught up in trying to be different or somewhere else.
Right. And I would say the fear that we have of being present is a lot of the time like, well, if I'm just present, like I won't deal with things, I won't get things done, I won't be responsible, like I have to think for tomorrow. But it's not about not planning for things. It's just not about living in a space that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So I can plan for the future, but I don't have to live there.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So I can pack a bag for it when we get there. I'll have it, but I'm not going to live there or try and live there because it doesn't, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
And it does. It's like the sacrifice of living for the present. You said like I'm usually pretty present, so sometimes I don't deal with things until they come. I think that's better than living somewhere that you're not, and then not actually enjoying the moment with the relationships that you have, with the people that you have, with the experiences, to be able to enjoy all of those things. And coming back to the waiting in the line at Chipotle, what if that was super enjoyable for you because you were present? What if Australia being at school was super enjoyable because you weren't thinking about, where you want to be, but you were just focused. Well, I'm here. So I bought a flight out, and at least for the next 6 months for this semester, I'm going to be here. So if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here.
Totally.
And making an actual decision to be there. I think that the sacrifice of being present for maybe not thinking too much of the future is well worth it. At least in my own mind, struggling, so much with future and past and not actually being in the moment. I'd way rather, mess up a little bit in the planning process,
then miss out on what is actually going on.
Then miss out on what's actually going on. Yeah. And even furthermore than that, I think we don't trust in the power of being present, because the power of being present, it creates responsibility, or it makes you responsible because your mind is clear to be responsible. It's not this, it doesn't become this willy-nilly thing of what I'm just living in the present, man, not thinking about my future. It's like usually those people, you're just dealing with issues and you're not actually a responsible person.
You might be just ignoring something.
Exactly. You're ignoring something. But if you're actually present with, what you're going through, what you're feeling, the maybe some of the fears that you have, the insecurities, the anxieties, if you're actually being present with all of those things and then come to a healthy presence, that makes you a more responsible person. You can plan actually out of health. You can make decisions for your business out of health, not out of anxiety. And something that the Lord, I think has been speaking to me recently is that you can't gather any truth from fear. So what happens is anxiety is fear, and it's in its base level. Anxiety is fear, right? Or living outside of the moment is fear, right. For me, and so what we try and do is we get anxious about where we're not or where we should be. And then what we try and do is we try and gather truth. And then based on that evidence that we gather from our own fear and anxiety, we make decisions out of that place. But we're not going to make solid decisions if we're making decisions and we're gathering information from fear and anxiety. Right.
Yeah.
So if you can actually look at your business or look at your career, or look at your relationships out of a presence, then you'll actually be able to make even better decisions about what you should do in those relationships than you would be if you were just trying to, I'm just trying to run the rat race, or it's like, I got to work. Or just being like, I want to work really hard, but I'm going to be present doing it. You'll actually do better work even in that because you're present, and your time will actually be utilized better because you're not using your time anxiously. I know when I'm anxious, I don't get nearly as much done. When I get into a present state and I get into that flow state, it's like 6 hours will go by and be like, man, I just, woo, it like zooms by, and it's like the greatest feeling ever when you just get into that state and you're not thinking about anything. You're thoughtless. You're just right in that moment, working on that, working on that book or writing that song, or you're in work and you're designing something, you're an engineer, whatever you do, or you're at Starbucks and you're making a latte and you're just enjoying the people around you because you're in that present moment. And I love when you're so present that you're not even thinking about the clock. When it's like 8 hours go by in a work day and you're like, God, I was so productive. It makes you feel powerful, It's crazy. But that presence, we don't think it's powerful. We think that we'll end up missing it, or we won't invest in our relationships as much, or we'll be like this weird surfer guy who doesn't have a care in the world, stuff like that, which, there's an aspect to that, but you can be really chill, but I think it does make you a more responsible, more intentional person.
Yeah. I think that what you're saying, the fear of something not happening if you're not thinking about it, right. If I don't worry about this, then what if this takes place?
Right. Yeah.
And if I don't worry about this, and if I become present, that's going to mean I'm going to miss this. Or if I become present, then I'm not going to be able to do this thing or this. It doesn't mean that whenever we are being present, doesn't mean we have to accept everything as it is and not make any effort to change anything.
Right.
But rather accepting that things are the way they are and making a decision from that place.
Right.
And rather than trying to think that we need to spend all our energy fixing the future, which, before it gets here,
right. Yeah.
I think that's like when I get anxious about the future, that's the kind of thoughts that are going through my mind, like trying to fix something that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
It's like, well, let's be present, see what's actually here and what can I do right now from this place, and that helps me stay grounded in that process.
Right.
I think, it could be cool to wrap up with some practical things. I know there's some things that come to my mind.
Hit it, Daryl.
Something that John Mark Comer said. He wrote a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Really good book.
Pick
it up on Amazon.
Yeah.
We'll be his
Anywhere
plug.
books are sold. He's a pastor of a big growing church. He was really successful, but he was really, really busy. You know, he was getting a lot of stuff done, but he was starting to get burned out. And he had a mentor he's meeting with, and one of the things his mentor told him to do was to ruthlessly eliminate hurry from his life. Yeah. And so he started on this journey of trying to figure out when he's hurrying, when he's rushing, and he saw all these moments when he's in the store line, grocery store line, when he's driving on the road.
Right.
And one of the practical tips he gives is get in the slow lane on purpose.
Yeah.
Or get in the longest line on purpose.
Right.
To practice not needing to hurry.
Right.
Practice slowing down.
Yeah.
And something else that I love that he said is that all the mentors that he walks with, all the people that he goes on actual walks with, they're like old wise sages. They all walk really slowly. Not because they can't walk any faster, but because they're not in a rush to get anywhere.
Right.
And they're just being present in the moment and taking it slowly and intentionally being slow. So I think that's one thing, is doing that practically, intentionally, slowing down, picking the long line to stand in, going in the slow lane, driving the speed limit,
Driving the speed limit, yeah.
Which is hard to do in California. And something that I have learned from one of my college classes actually regarding time management is turning off my notifications. I don't have any notifications from apps pretty much. Definitely all social media I don't get notifications for, because those are things that demand our attention.
Right.
They demand our time when we're not planning on giving it to them. Right. So whenever I'm not planning on paying attention to Instagram, if it dings, it's saying, hey, pay attention to me.
Right.
And I turn off those notifications so I can take back that time and I take back my attention. So I can use my attention how I want to. So turning off notifications on your phone, I think, is a good practical tip. Whenever I'm done for the day with work and I just want to relax or spend time with my wife, I'll put my phone down away from me or in another room and just don't think about it because I don't need it there. I'm there with her. Same thing with friends. Whenever I go to coffee with friends or something, try to not pay any attention to my phone.
Right.
There's a couple practical tips that I found helpful with slowing down and becoming present, taking back the time that I have so I can be intentional with it. Those are the big ones that come to my mind.
Yeah. And then there's the things like we talked about where it's coming back into your body. Just taking a moment to embrace your senses, focusing on what you're hearing, focusing on what you're seeing, what you can feel. Just getting back into your body when you start getting into that state, and then allowing God to reveal in your own heart, like to almost question, why am I so in a hurry? Where do I have to be right now? I don't have to be anywhere. And then I think really presence is the art of letting go, letting go of where you have to be, letting go of what has to get done, letting go of what you think matters and redefining what actually matters, And I think that comes through times of reflection. I know that times of silence are super helpful for me when I can get alone in a room and you realize how crazy your mind is when you get by yourself. And we love distraction and we love thinking that we're good because we're just filling us with other stuff, noise that cancels out the other noise in our own minds, the other pulls to not being present. And so not just settling for distraction. I think we do that a lot. I just need something to take my mind off of this, but getting into a space where you can sit with those things that are going on inside you, because if you're going to be present, you can't just be present with all of like you have to be present with some of the hard things too. Right. Yeah. And so in order to be present in the joy and present in like the beautiful moments and all the good that you're focused on, you also have to be present with the emotions that you don't want, with the thoughts that you don't want, and you have to, embrace those things to a certain extent and find time to sit with, what am I actually feeling about this? Why? Because you're not anxious in a line at Chipotle just because you want your food, there's probably 10 or 20 things, that could have happened that day that have slowly but surely brought you into a space of anxiety, where you're going quick and you're hurrying. So I think being in that more reflective about what are actually the causes, what are the roots of those things, so that you can maintain that healthy balance. For me, also starting out my day right is really important for me, being healthy. I'm starting to realize that more and more, and I didn't used to do this, but just starting out my day with healthy things that get me out of my head, So I wake up, spend time with Jesus, meditate on the Lord, read the Word maybe a little bit, and then I stretch. I've just been doing this for the last week. It changes from season to season what's important for me to do in the morning. But just the last week, getting up and stretching, and that gets you into your body as well. Actually feeling, your muscles stretch, and that feels good. So I'm talking to God while I do that, and then I take a shower, and at the end of the shower, I turn it real cold. So I take like a really cold shower, and it's like, whoo, it just like totally like lights up your brain, So doing healthy things like that can kind of bring you into that. And while I'm in the shower too, to not be trying to get out of the cold, but actually feeling the cold, like
being present.
Yeah. Like being present with the cold and embracing it, embracing what my lungs are doing and what my heart's doing. What's like, and like taking deep breaths and breathing into that. Another thing, there's countless things that you could do. You got to find what works for your brain, I think, but breathing into the feelings helps you be present with your feelings. So instead of just like just trying to get rid of them, like experience the feelings that you're feeling, be present with them, and then breathe straight into all that you're feeling. Don't try and hide away from it. Breathe straight into it. Go and face it. And then when you face things that are actually going on inside of you, it gives you the opportunity to be present, because you realize it's probably not as big of a deal as you thought it was. When we run away from things, our fears look a lot bigger. When we actually get close enough to them and we realize like, oh, that's not that big of a deal, Right. Yeah, good. You could breathe into them and come back into the present moment. So there's tons of ideas, but there's tons of videos too, and different people that are great speakers into living into present and living in that space. Because at the end of the day, I mean, Jesus was the most present guy ever.
Yeah, he was always where he was.
He was always where he was. He always had time to take care of the person that was in front of him. To stop for the person that needed his help, even if he was on a mission, like going to see Jairus's daughter who died, the woman with the blood disorder reaches out and touches his garment, and instead of Jairus's daughter was already dead, but instead of just running, and he's like, I got something to do, he turns to this woman who reached out for help in the middle of it. Why? Because he didn't have to rush. He was in the present moment. He knew the authority that he had. And so he reached down, healed the woman, and then went on his way. So those types of things, and God being outside of time, he's not worried about things. Jesus says things like, do not worry. You can't, worrying doesn't add 1 hour to your life, which is interesting that he ties it to time. Right? That you can't add more time by worrying about time. You actually start to lose time when you live out of that place of lack.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. I feel like the Spirit's in that one. that tied together perfect, because that is what he says about worry, is that
you can't add any time to your life by worrying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. Worrying only takes away from your ability to actually respond to what you're worried about.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's good.
Dang.
We
homies.
got the same 24 hours that Beyonce does. That's my brother used to always say.
Yo, you got 168 hours, all right? Well, this episode was like an hour long, so you have 167 hours until the next Your Brain on God podcast. What are you going to do with it? That's the question. Good. You know what I'm saying? But we love you guys so much. We always get awkward at the end. Okay. We love you guys so much. Well. Yeah. Use your time well. Be present this next week. Just embrace the moment just as it is. And we believe that'll bring freedom to your guys' lives. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Your Brain on God, our Instagram profile, Your Brain on God. We love you guys so much, and we'll see you back next week for Your Brain on God. Yeah.